the sacrifices were made from families, the men that crossed the borders, and the women that had to stay behind with their children. And I think the sacrifices were made from both parts, from the men and from the women and the children. But through all of them, I believe that God had a big hand in helping us make it to this country. Up to this day, I don't know why, but I believe in many details that I hear some stories lately that God's hand was in everything. So I would like to start the first story today. I heard that Brother Antimi has a very interesting story of how he crossed the border, and would like to hear all the details of it, and he will be the first speaker tonight. May God bless him, and I'm inviting him over to start the speech.
I would like to know how many of the young kids do understand Romanian. Wow, very good. Should I speak in Romanian or in English? Okay, I would like to start with one thing, one question. 18 years down from the young generation, how many of you knows at least one country that borders with Romania? Okay, you can say it loud. Don't Google it. Hungary, very good. Another country. Moldova, Republic of Moldova, yes. We do have a sea that borders with Romania. Anybody knows the name? Black Sea, very good. Well, I would like to be as short as I can because I know a lot of testimonies are here, and most of you carry with you a story. And I'm sure our duty is to tell it to our kids and grandchildren so they would not take for granted the fact that we live in a blessed country like United States. I was born in the north part of Romania, about 15 miles away from the Russian border. I was the third in a family of 12 children. When I was 15 years of age, I lost my mother. She had a second stroke, and my baby brother was only 3 months old. I started my high school years, and in the meantime, with a couple of my friends, one of them was my cousin, we started to talk, what can we do for our future? In the high school, sometimes we were mocked by the teachers and the professor just because of the fact that we belong to a Christian family. We talked for about 2 years, and we planned what can we do. Now remember, the only escape from Romania was in the western border, which was Yugoslavia at that time. And we had to cross Romania, which is about 1,000 kilometers, get into the border area close to Yugoslavia. You have to have back then a special permit to live in that area for the period you stay and then go back to your country. I was between 11th and 12th grade in high school, and I asked my uncle, which was a construction manager for a big area that they used to do construction very close to the western border, in Moldova Noua. Most of you know the city in Karaseverin. So I asked him to take me as a student to make some money for the next school year. So with, talking to him again and again, he took me over, and my other two friends that we were planning. Nobody would know. 2 years prior to this event, I asked one time my dad as we were sitting at the table, and I said, what would you think of me if you would receive a letter from me with a United States address? And he, knowing the risk of crossing a border from a communist country, he would say, if I would know that you have these plans in your heart, I would turn you to the police. So I learned my lesson, and I never told anybody else what plans we have. So the time came, I just turned 18 years of age at that time. That was back in 1979. And now you know how old I am. So we started to work in construction, wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go with the construction team. We would help as much as we could. But during the daytime, we would keep watching the Danube River, how the boats would cross through. We had a set of binocular, and we were watching as the boats come, as the soldiers change guards, what time and what's the activity. Remember, we came from the other side of Romania. We were new in this area. So 6 weeks later, all the married men that were in the construction crew, they went back to their families, and we, the unmarried young kids, precisely 4 of us, one of them never made it to cross the border, we stayed at the dormitory. It was the Independence Day of Romania, 23rd of August 1979. We thought the soldiers on the border would get drunk, all kinds of activity, and it will ease our escape. Well, it wasn't so. After we spent a good portion of the day with the bus traveling closer and closer to the border, we found out that the border was tripled in guards. There was a lot of soldiers in that area, and we couldn't do anything. More than that, we were followed by 3 soldiers that were armed. And when we saw that, we gave up any plans. Of course, we had only one carry-on baggage with us, with a set of binocular, a few chocolates that would be used as energy bars, because we couldn't carry any food. And we gave up the plan that night. We came back to the dormitory, and the following day we said, no matter what, we have to make it and cross the border before everybody else comes back to work, and we started the activity again. So 25th of August 1979, we woke up in the morning at 6 o'clock. We dressed up again in our camouflage suits, which was green in color, basically to try to kind of blend in with the nature, so we can continue traveling to the borderline. So we walked that day about 40 kilometers. Now, to make this story shorter, I wanted to let you know that I belong to a Christian family. But this period of my life was a time of questions. And I remember vivid that day, I said, Lord, I know that my father and my mother were very faithful men and women, and they served you. But how can I serve you, a God that I don't know? How can I dedicate my life to you if I never had an encounter with you? And I said, if you really want me to serve you, I really want you to reveal yourself to me so I would know who I worship and who I would serve for the rest of my life. I wanted to let you know that that day was a day of miracles in my life. There is a lot of events that came in our life in that day, but after we traveled about, I would say, 15 kilometers, we found a very small village which was not on the map of Romania. Why? What we did is, since we did not know the area, we collected a few maps. We cut out the section of the area we needed, and we realized when we arrived at that point with the river crossing, that village was not on the map. More than that, I heard that during the communist regime, the authority of that time had a very interesting politics of how to lead the areas, the border city. In other words, traveling in Romania, you would go in the supermarkets, you would not find a banana to buy. You would not find fruits. You would not have, anything special. But in the border city, you would walk into a supermarket and you would find everything your heart desires. And why was this done? The communist regime created such an environment that those people living close to the border, they would not feel the need of anything. They had everything. More than that, they became people that would turn you in the minute they find out you are a stranger in the area. So knowing a little bit about this, we had to hide. We hit the city, we saw people, working on the crops on the field. We had to go around through the woods and continue our walk towards the borderline. It was one moment that we crossed the river deep enough. Of course, it'd been raining that day, and we said, we cannot continue. There was a shepherd with about 2,000 sheep with a few dogs in the area, and we realized we cannot continue until a miracle happens. As the three of us were hiding behind a few bushes, we kneeled down because we already did it a few times that day, and we said, Lord, there's not much we can do. Can you come and help us? A few minutes later, a heavy rain came over, and as I see you today, I saw all those sheep moving on the right side about half a kilometer away, and our path was free to go. We crossed it. It was about 5 o'clock that day. The sun was setting. It started to be chilly. We were very wet because we had a couple of rains that day and we had no shelter to hide and stay dry. It was a moment when the guards has changed. You know how they would stay 6 hours or 4 hours, then the new soldier come in. And since we had the binocular set, we could look up at the mountain where the border was, and we saw a watchtower here, another one there, another one there. So we realized that the field was pretty open, not many trees, and we could be spotted very easy. So here we are in a channel with some water in there and some bushes hiding and thinking what's the next step we would take. Of course, we prayed again. After our prayer, we were trying to, look at the soldiers. It was 5:20 that day, and the soldier that was watching came down. The watchtower was like a little wood cabin, about 50 to 60 steps high on a big pole. So the soldier would come spiraling down, and the new soldier would climb up and stay there. So we realized with the new soldier coming in, it was very hard to continue our way. So we prayed. After we prayed, we were changing a few words. We looked on the right side. There was no other cloud on the sky but one, a very light gray color. And as we were talking, we realized that cloud becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and darker. And in our minds was very clear, it's going to come another rain. But God was about to do a very big miracle. That cloud, as it became bigger, it moved, the wind moved it exactly in front of us where the watchtower was. So that cloud stopped above the steps of the tower. The soldier could not see us. We couldn't see the soldier. And at that moment, we in our hearts, at least I'm telling you what I felt. I felt like it couldn't be any closer. And I received such a big courage, and I said, this is not a coincidence. This is God. Let's move. So we didn't try to hide anymore behind any bushes or trees. We started just walking and running. We made probably over 30 kilometers by now, and we were approaching the top of the mountain where the line of the watching tower would be. We were told by others, all different stories that we heard, that Romania usually in the most crossing points, they would build a false border, And those people that try to escape would think, oh, I'm in Yugoslavia. They start to scream and yell, and then the soldier would wait for them because they would still be in Romania. We kind of knew that, and by now, since we were approaching, we were less than a kilometer, we started our catwalk. That means elbows and knees. We couldn't walk anymore normal. Of course, it was very muddy, and you could imagine how we looked. Anyway, we continued slowly, a few steps, wait, make sure there is no strange noise around. We continue more, and all of a sudden we realize it's dark. The moon came out, it was almost 9 o'clock, the month of August, and we thought, wow, the soldiers usually nighttime, they would come down from the watching tower and they would hide behind bushes, trees, and they would wait for any intruders to come. So we continue to go very slowly, we continue more, and all of a sudden, Constantine, which is my cousin, he was 2 years older than I, he hit a wire. It was about 8 inches from the ground, and he he told us, make sure you don't touch it. We went over it. What was that wire? The minute you touch it hard enough, it would blow out like fireworks. And those fireworks during the communist regime would have different colors. When they would see the color came out, they would know exactly the location you are in, and they would just come on you. We crossed that, we continue our catwalk, and then we realize we're getting closer and closer. All of a sudden we start hearing some Romanian country music on the left of us. We continue to catwalk, and as a few trees came clear of us as we continued on, we realized we're getting very closer. We knew it's not over yet. Now, for most of you kids, you have no clue what a border is. You're not crossing from Missouri to, Illinois. Or a border in Romania, Yugoslavia was completely different. Now, besides the watchtowers, besides the wire, besides the huge fence that was built, which we did not encounter yet, it was ahead of us, they had a section like a belt of fresh land, going across the border left and right of us for hundreds of kilometers. And that was refreshed every morning. Even a cat or a dog, if it would cross, they can read the footprints of the person that crossed. So they would know by that how many people crossed, if they were children, if they were big people, women's, men, whatever. So we kind of knew we're anticipating to get to that point, and all of a sudden we saw that, and by looking at it we realized, I don't think that's the real one. So we did not stand up, we continued our catwalk, and we knew we have the border and the fence ahead. Now another miracle happened as we approached the fence. We had a pair of pliers in our carry-on baggage, knowing that if we needed, we have to cut a few wires and just create a hole in the fence and go through it. The miracle that happened here is the fence was under construction. So imagine us coming from 1,000 kilometers across the country in exactly a place where the fence is under construction. The new barbed wires are on the left with the new posts. There was a few posts installed with gap of 8 to 10 feet apart, and then the old barbed wires roll on the right side. So we came exactly, it's like the hand of God was leading us through those bushes to come exactly in that point. So when we saw that opening, we said, this is God. It cannot be a coincidence again. So as we approached that area, we knew we could hear any seconds a soldier that would say, stop, or I shoot. And a lot of times they would not call your name or, just announce you. They would just shoot and kill you and then bury you in a hole next to the area. So the music on the left we started to hear it a little bit louder and louder. And when we looked on the left, right away, as we reached that real border, we saw 3 soldiers with, those arms, whatever they had, rifles, and dogs, huge German Shepherd dogs that are trained to do their job. So what happens by the international law, the minute you cross the border, the soldiers are not allowed to turn the arm against the neighbor country and shoot. What they would do, they would send the dogs. The dogs are trained to maul you and to break you in pieces. So another miracle happened that as we picked on the dogs and the soldiers about 50 to 60 yards away, we realized that the wind is blowing from them towards us, so the dogs did not feel us. So we kind of caught the moment when the soldiers were talking a little bit loud and we could hear it. And then instead of standing up and walk the border, we continued our catwalk and we left 6 knee marks on the dirt. That was about 18 to 20 feet wide. So we did that very fast, and from that point we did not look back. We continued on our journey. It was about 9:45, 9:50 that evening. And all of a sudden we realized we crossed the border, we're all alive. We continue our travel into the heart of Yugoslavia with that little map, when we had some electronic watches that we put together with the light because we didn't have a flashlight to look. We kind of imagined, well, if we came this way, those stars were there. Since we started, the moon is there. It's very well known if you travel in a desert and you don't have the stars as a guide, there's a tendency to make a wide left circle and you could wake up in the same spot after hours of walking. So we had a few references in the sky. We continue our walk. And by 11:30, we hit a road between 2 cities in Yugoslavia. So when I look at how those kilometer indicators what are those called? Where they show how many miles to the next city. In Romania, they used to be like concrete blocks built, and on each side would say name of the city and how many kilometers. When we got to the first one, we read a city that belonged to Romania. And I said, wow, are we in Romania or not? It was a big confusion. And a lot of cars from Romania with a license number from Romania, județul Caraș-Severin, were passing on that road. And we got very confused. We said, are we in Romania or in Yugoslavia? Anyway, staying a few hours there, by 1 o'clock we had the guts to enter the first city in Yugoslavia. And the minute we walked in, we saw lights coming off at the porch, at the entrance of the main door, dogs barking, and the people that would leave, you would see the curtain going across and try to look, to who's passing on the road. So we realized it's not a good time to go through the city. So we came back, we stayed a few more hours there, and we had a discussion, a little bit tough discussion, and we kind of contradicted each other which way we should go. And of course, we decided to go one way. By 5 o'clock in the morning, we were in the border office about 50 miles away from Naidash, but on the Yugoslavian side. So when we realized we're in very big danger, we started walking back. We did about 12 kilometers in less than an hour. We stopped in a creek, we washed our clothes, and we continued to walk in the heart of Yugoslavia. By 9 o'clock, we fell asleep in a ditch. We couldn't know anything what's going on because we were so drained of energy. Around 11 o'clock, we woke up and we started to continue our walking. And in about 5 minutes, a very small car with a civilian stopped, and they asked, Romanian? We said, yes. Passport? We said, Nema passport. We didn't have passport. So That guy crammed us, three of us in the back of the car. He chained us. He put the handcuffs and took us to the police station. Here we are. They removed the dogs from the police station. They put us in a very small room. There was a lot of lice and, just incredible conditions. We fell asleep